All right, lots going on in the Pac-12, and I promise this will come back around to Houston at the end. But last week, the Pac-12 went on and added 4 schools to Oregon State and Washington State. That's Boise, Colorado State, Fresno, and San Diego State. They added those 4 to the Pac-12. They're up to the Pac-6. They got to get to 8 by 2026 to officially be an FBS conference. And their thought in doing that was they extended offers to Memphis, Tulane, UTSA, and USF, All American Athletic Conference schools, all of which rejected the offer. Yes, Memphis, Tulane, UTSA, and USF rejected the offer to leave the American Athletic Conference to go join the Pac 12. Seems significant. And frankly, to any semblance of the Pac 12 becoming a power conference, feels relevant that schools are turning them down because they don't think they'll make the money in the buyout or whatever. Each school is a little different in that, right? But turning down the Pac-12, turning down a formerly power conference, staying the American, tells you a lot. The other player in this whole thing was there was a rumor that Gonzaga was going to join the Pac-12. Obviously, in just basketball, they haven't played football since 1946. It does not look like that's going to happen. However, the 80s and presidents of the 4 American Athletic Conference schools did all confirm, and then the American Athletic Conference put out a big commitment thing saying that they're all staying. But there was confirmation to Dellinger of Yahoo Sports that those 4 schools did hear an offer from the Pac-12. Dellinger was the first to say that the Gonzaga AD is saying that the reporting is inaccurate, that they have not at Gonzaga committed to the Pac-12 as of Monday evening. It sounds like the Pac-12 then extended offers and sales and through their pitch to Air Force. Air Force said they're not leaving the Mountain West. There were rumors last week about Air Force joining the American Athletic Conference, so maybe there's something in the works there. The Pac-12 still has to get to 8 football schools. They need 2 more by 2026. Feels like they're on the lookout for that where they can get it. Dellinger reported that Utah State is going to accept their offer conditionally. It looks like if they get to 8 schools, Utah State will be one of the 8. So they're like a conditional 7th. Theoretically, they got to get to 8. And then the funniest part of this whole thing, UConn, the football program that everyone on my comment section was trying to tell me was not good enough for to play in the Big 12 and that Houston should never take. UConn is going to get a football only offer, apparently, to the Pac-12. And it may accept it, depending on what the terms are and stuff like that, right? Interesting, because here's the deal is that is essentially taking an East Coast school out west to join the Pac-12 in football purely to make sure it can legitimately be a conference, right? Now, it does seem like there's smoke and fire around Gonzaga potentially signing up as a basketball school once this is an official conference. That does feel like a potential thing that could happen because there's just too much smoke around this rumor. And there were the quotes from the Gonzaga AD were things like, that's inaccurate. That hasn't happened yet. There were things like that around it. So it sounds like it's not out of question necessarily, but it's also not happening. And so if they could get those 2 football schools, you make it Gonzaga. So you'd have Gonzaga only in basketball and UConn only in football. UConn's been independent of football for a while now, right? So it's interesting to see all this movement happen in the Pac-12. But Parker, how's that tied to the Big 12? How's that tied to Houston? Well, it feels fairly obvious that this means there are officially only 4 power conferences. Last week, when the Pac-12 was looking like it was getting revived, there was questions about, okay, who can they add to make that conference a true power conference and not just a good group of 6 or 5 conference, right? And that would, interestingly, kind of involve itself in TV revenues and things like that and college football playoffs, and that would also tie into TV revenues and all of those kinds of things, right? But if the Pac-12 is getting turned down by American Athletic Conference schools, if the Pac-12 is taking on UConn football without UConn basketball, if the Pac-12 is resorting to conditional yeses from Utah State, it feels easy to say that conference is not a power conference. It's just not going to be. Even with Washington State and Oregon State having histories of being powerful football and powerful athletic programs in that region, they're just not going to be. It's going to be a really good group conference, but it's not a power conference. And that for the Big 12 is a good thing. That's a concrete thing. That's a Houston made the right decision in accepting their Big 12 offer thing, even with UT and Oklahoma leaving the conference, right? Clearly, that was the right call because if Houston had not done that or if Houston had not gotten that call, they probably would be stuck in this very same mess that Memphis and Tulane and UTSA find themselves in, right? And instead, they sit fairly comfortably in the Big 12, which I should point out also had a deal struck on Monday to get another. They are now basketball games are going to also be on CBS. It is the only of the four power conferences. I guess five in basketball when you count the Big East. The only of the five power basketball conferences to have basketball games on all three major networks: CBS, ESPN, and Fox. And that's also important as far as this whole dollars and cents things go. It was a good day for Houston in the Big 12 in that it kind of confirmed a lot of things are going the way they ought to go. And I think that while the chaos of who's in, who's out, who's in the Pac-12 dominated the circle and dominated the news cycle, that overall Houston should feel good about the news that they got. If you think I'm crazy, you think I'm silly, if you think I just have no idea what I'm talking, tell me in the comments down below. Be happy to talk to you about it later. We're going to be breaking down things all week long, getting for Iowa State, a gigantic recruiting weekend for Houston basketball coming up as well. Lots of things going on with the Houston Cougars. So hit subscribe, hit the bell so you know we're live. We here each and every day. Locked On Cougars is going to recommend Locked On Big 12 for a second listen of the day. And Locked On Cougars is a proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Go Cougs.